keep it busy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Oh, welcome guys, Miss Liz back in the house, and we had an incredible afternoon with Dr. Rob. We talked about comfort cases for kids in foster care, but tonight I have a returning guest who's been on Tea Time, I think 3, maybe 4 times. We have J.M. Shaw in the house, and we're going to be talking about her books that I'm going to be bringing up tonight. But before we get started, we're going to get everybody over to those platforms: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Lemonade, all of those good platforms. Give those all a like, follow, and subscribe, because Miss Liz is all over the place. And podcast apps, get over to Spotify, Podbean, Listen Notes, iHeartRadio, all the other ones that I haven't mentioned. They're out there. Miss Liz is on those too. And check out babyboomers.org, because Miss Liz is partnered with babyboomers.org. And you can find some incredible other podcasts there if you're looking to be on different shows and get different views and different opinions from different podcasters out there. Miss Liz always likes to encourage that you check out other podcasts as well. So tonight, let's get started with disclaimer and then a beautiful intro. And then we're going to get JM in here and we're going to spill some tea together. And her tea tonight is, let me get it. I didn't put it on this piece of paper. Let me put it here. Adventurous, imaginative, and determined. And we're going to get into that tea tonight with all of you guys. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Times live shows. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or check out my link tree, Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary, and I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart. And if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you're ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where stories become more than entertainment. They become spaces where people feel understood, accepted, and seen. Today, we welcome back a returning guest whose storytelling continues to open conversations about imagination, resilience, identity, and emotional depth of being human. Please join me in welcoming back J.M. Shaw, author of the Callum Walker series. Through fantasy, adventure, and emotional layers storytelling, J.M. Shaw creates worlds that invite readers to look deeper, beyond labels, beyond assumptions, and beyond what society often expects people to be. As a neurodivergent creator, I'm going to get her to say that word because I can never say it. J.M. brings a perspective that reminds us of something important. Emotions are an intimate part of humanity, and autism does not prevent someone from feeling deeply, loving deeply, or experiencing the world in meaningful ways. Too often people misunderstand neurodivergent through limitations rather than humanity. But stories like the Callum Walker series reminds us that strength can look different, communication can look different, and experiencing the world differently does not make someone less. It makes them uniquely themselves. Today's tea time is about storytelling, neurodiversity, emotional truth, and the importance of creating spaces where people are accepted for who they are, not who the world expects them to be. So grab your cup and lean in. This is a conversation rooted in imagination, awareness, and humanity. Let me get JM in here and let's spill some tea. Welcome.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
I put too much.
I'm going to cry. That was gorgeous.
I go deep with my teas.
You do indeed.
Well, Jennifer, welcome back to the show, and thank you for coming back. I always like seeing familiar faces. We got carried away. That's why we're 1 minute late, guys, is because we were talking in the back, having some fun. Us girls having fun, right?
Oh, yes.
So, Jennifer, if you'd like to share with the first-time listeners who you were as a little girl and who you are now.
I was very introverted. I was very confused. I felt like, I say this before, but I felt like an alien dropped off on this planet without the script, and I was trying to figure my way through life. I didn't know how to talk to people. I thought everybody had the same troubles, and I was wondering why they all got over it and made friends. And so I started to kind of come up with my own strategies, and one of which was to write down and document conversations. So I'd have my little notebook all the time, and I'd write down, okay, so-and-so said this was the reply. That must be what I need to say when somebody says this to me. And I, quote unquote, built my own script so that I could learn to communicate with people. That was just one of my issues. So that was kind of an example of how I got through that. I wanted to understand how people worked. So I would watch people, and that's where it started, watching people, and I'd see their behaviors, and I'd see different behaviors, and I'd see physical responses in other people. But that only told me what they were doing. And I wanted to see what was inside their head. And I mean, I can't dissect somebody's head and step inside. So I started reading fiction so that I could get into somebody's head, so to speak, even if they were fictional, and see where the thoughts led to the, like what thoughts led to that behavior. And then, so that helped out for a time, but that only told me what that person's thoughts were and that person's resultant behavior was. It didn't help me to understand my own thoughts and feelings. So I started writing my own characters and putting myself in their heads and seeing where they led me. And that was kind of how I got started writing.
So Jennifer, tell us who you are today.
I'm still a writer. I'm a lifelong dreamer. I have a wild imagination, and I swear if I did not write, I would not sleep. So I have to write. It's part of who I am. I've been doing it for over 3 decades now. So it is what I am, a writer through and through. It's not a hobby. It's more than a passion even. It's kind of my self-care, therapy, obsession. But I'm also a mom and a wife, and so I'm trying to balance all of those things into one, as well as becoming a published author and telling the world I exist and sharing my stories and my messages with people. I'm a deep thinker as well. So
I like how you said that self-care obsession of writing, because we don't talk about people who need to write, right? To sleep.
Yeah.
We got to get those thoughts out of there because it's all busy in there and we got to get it out. So do you write a lot at nighttime, Jennifer? I can't remember if you do.
I tend to so I need quiet. I need a no mess environment. So it's very difficult. Most of the time when I'm writing, it's when my kids are at school, my husband's at work, and I have the house quiet to myself, and I rush through my chores so that I can sit down and write. And you know what? I'll get a little bit written, and then it never fails. Somebody's going to ring me up, or they're going to come to the door. In the evenings, when the kids are at bed, I really do want to write, but that's the only time my husband and I have together. So I kind of, alternate and balance it. I had somebody ask me if I ever dream and like write plots and get ideas for stories from dreams. And I say, okay, bits of ideas, yes, but I don't write my dreams because those plots are all over the place. And I would like to organize them a little better, but they do give me ideas. But it's the waking ideas and the thoughts, the what ifs, like, ooh, what if, for example, what if our sun blinked out today? Like, how would that change our lives going forward? How would our economy suffer? How would we survive? How would we learn? Would our planet float through space and be caught up in another sun in another solar system somewhere? Just these kind of things. I let it go on a tangent, and it gives me a plot idea.
Well, we got a returning listener here, and Matthew he said, "Welcome back, J.M. Shaw. So excited to hear more about the latest in the Callum Walker series." But we're going back to the first and second book, guys, because we're going to talk about that. So we're going to bring up those books tonight, and I'm going to bring up book one. Let's start with book one, Jennifer, and then we'll jump into book two, and we'll tell people why we're doing book one and two again.
Yes. Okay. So when I wrote my story, I'm growing as an author, and I got to my fourth book and I switched editors, and they did such an amazing job that I really wanted to go back to the beginning and read, do a refresh on my first book and kind of catch some of those, those typos and stuff that get missed. But if I'm going to do that, I want to get a new cover. And if I'm going to go through all that, I want to add new chapters and new materials. And then if I'm going to do all that with my first book, I want my other two, my second and third ones, to kind of match the theme. So I'm doing, with my second and third, I'm also doing a refresh edit, not adding new materials and stuff, just cleaning it up and doing new covers for those. But my first one has new material, new chapters, and deeper exploration into the histories a little bit.
Oh, so in book two, but before we jump into book two, Jennifer, let's talk a little bit about the cover of book one. So did you change the cover of book one?
I did. And I love the cover. There was so many, after I decided on the cover, there's a lot of times I'm looking at the books like, wow, that's a good cover. Oh, wait, that's mine. It's just such a beautiful cover. And I think she did an amazing job. In previous covers, I had gone to Fiverr and I hired somebody there, and it was less of a back and forth. I didn't have a lot of input about what theme I wanted. It was select some pictures from this site and we'll put them together and layer them on top. And then if it looks good, then yay. So there wasn't as much adjustment that I could do, because it was, okay, you got 3 adjustments and then that's it. Or you have to pay extra. So with this process, I was recommended a professional cover designer who's won cover awards. And she talked to me about, what is your idea? Do you have any concepts? Can you give me the PDF so that I can see it and I can generate some ideas after I've read your story? So she really went into that in depthly. She looked at the synopsis on the back, and I revised that one as well, the synopsis. And then she even suggested things that I hadn't even thought of, like having the front picture extend around to the back so that we don't get the spine. If it's misaligned in the printing slightly, it doesn't matter. And then the tagline, the headers and the taglines, I hadn't even thought about that, but and we changed the font too. So I just thought she did such an amazing job, and I felt more involved.
When the books were sent to me from Mickey, I was like, those books are different.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't imagining it. I actually caught on that they were different. Yep. So let's get into book two. And then, do we know this person who made these covers?
Yeah, well, I can send you the link to her website.
Okay.
After the show, I can do that for you so that you can put it up for your guests. But yeah, I all I know is her first name, because I just address her by her first name now. But I have nothing but good things to say about her. She's done an amazing job, and this is the second cover. And oddly enough, when we selected, so she gives me some mock-up ideas, and these are images based on, a theme. And all I said for the second book is, I want it green and I want it in a forest. So she kind of had to go with that. So she gave me a bunch of mock-ups, images to choose from. And she said, choose 2 or 3. So I chose 3. And then this one was and if those don't work, maybe this one. And then as soon as I saw this one, because you choose the images and then she puts the words on. And as soon as I saw it with the words, I'm like, that one, that's the one. So that one was so easy. She did the cover as well for my fourth book, because I had an original cover. I had a different cover, and then and that's where it started. And then I was like, now I'm hooked. I want her to do all my covers for all my future books.
So do I see a dragon flying in this one?
Yes, yes. And it's to create, it's like creates that theme of danger and mystery and ominous dark fantasy theme that is throughout my books and my series. Not so much that there is a dragon in my books. Obviously, anybody who's read the first one knows there is. There's another one in the second book. It's more about the theme and the feeling than the actual dragon.
And I always love having Jennifer on here because we get deep into her books, and I always like the adventure and the characters and the storylines that you put in. Did you add extra chapters?
Oh, sorry, you cut out there for a moment. Uh-oh. Can you repeat that? You cut out for a moment.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go. We got some little wormholes going on. StreamYard, smarten up.
Somebody tripped over the cord for a moment.
We're going into the books. We're jumping into the books. So Jennifer, I always love having you on Tea Time and getting into the books because you really get into the characters. You tell us the storyline. So in book 2, did you add extra chapters as well?
I didn't add extra chapters. I just cleaned it up if anywhere that there was, a need for clarity, changed around some sentence structures and added a little bit of description because that is something that I do struggle with. I spend so much time in my characters' heads that I don't look at my characters on the outside. And I was told that I do need to add a little bit of description. So that was one thing that I went back to the beginning with and added some. And more than just the eyes, because that's tend to be what I focus on myself in day-to-day life. So I had to learn and I had to teach myself how to add physical characteristics of my characters. But most of it was just a refresh proofread mostly. I think it cleaned it up a lot though. And the story didn't change in any of them. With the first book, I did give those characters voices that are important later in the series that didn't have their own chapters, didn't have their chance to speak.
Well, we got a bunch of comments that are coming in, and this one says, "So glad I caught the live stream today. J.M. Shaw is such a brilliant guest." Well, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate that. We have a question here for you, Jennifer, is how has the diagnosis in 2019 changed the way you write your characters' internal journeys?
I did a lot of introspection, trying to figure out what makes people tick, and which is fine to try to figure out how other people work. But I did a lot of introspection of myself. And I think that allows me to put a lot of thought and feeling and emotion and realism into my characters because I'm feeling what they feel and I'm seeing what they see and I'm writing down. I'm along for the ride and the adventure and I'm writing it down. I had a reader point out to me that, the arc of my series. So with my series, there's our world, our time, coexisting magical realm, but there's a veil that separates us. We can't see across it because we don't have magic, but these creatures that do can and have, and they've been the source of inspiration for our mythologies and fairy tales and such. With Callum Walker, he was born with the ability to use magic. He doesn't know why. He's trying to make the most of it. This gives him the ability to cross the veil into the magical realm, whereas other people cannot. And then so he's learning about this world and all the beings therein, but he's also trying to figure out who he is and where he belongs because he's too magic for here, but too human for there, and master his abilities to survive because it's a very dangerous world. And my reader pointed out to me is like, isn't that kind of mirroring your own journey with autism and neurodivergence, trying to figure out your place in the world and where you belong? And I'm like, I hadn't thought about it. It's like, I was writing my own arc without even realizing it. Yeah, it blew my mind. I was
always love the way you express yourself, girl.
As insightful as I can be, I totally missed that.
Right? Sometimes it just blows our mind. We got some more comments coming in. Being different is a superpower. I love that message so much. The next one, as a fellow neurodivergent, I say that word for me, Jennifer.
Neurodivergent. So neuro as in like neurology and divergent as in diverging. So different brains, basically.
Different brains.
shorten it, divide it out and figure out what it means. It's different brains.
Creativity, your journey is incredibly validating and inspiring. We have a question here for you from Real Charlotte is, what advice do you have for young writers who feel their ideals are too different for the world?
You won't know if they're too different unless you share them with the world. That's the only way you're going to know. And I only wish that I had shared my stuff, because I wrote for many years before I was diagnosed, which was 2019. By that time, I'd been writing for 30 years. And I thought, okay, well, maybe writing is my special interest. And that gave me the courage to say, okay, I'm going to get brave. I had finished the manuscript for my first book, And I said, I'm going to send it to an editor. And I'm telling myself that the worst they can say is it sucks. And if they do, then I know, and I'll just write for myself, right? But if I don't send it out there, nobody's going to, I'll never know. And my editor came back to me and, said, this doesn't suck. You should publish. So 2 years later, I did. And I've had really positive reviews, and I've had people coming back and asking me, when's the next book? When's the next book? And so it's been an incredible journey. And had I not shared, I never would have known.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if anybody wants to check out all of Jennifer's previous times on Tea Time, you can check out, I believe it's season 4, season 5, and season 7. If not, it's season 3, season 4, and season 7. Jennifer has been on at least 3 times. If you want to check out all of those, you can check out, and she'll be sharing about book 3 and book 4, I believe, in season 5. I believe you shared a little bit, Jennifer.
I have posted some links to past shows as well on my Facebook and Instagram. So you can find links to that on my website to find. Facebook is probably the easiest place to click on the links to the shows. So.
But Jennifer, we have a question here that came in, and it says, what inspired the world of the Callum Walker series?
Well, I was watching a show on Netflix called Merlin, and I was like, I have an idea. But I had been toying before that with the idea of, what if fairy tales were real and we just didn't know it? And what would that look like? And where would they be? And how would we find them? How would they find us? What would they think of us? And I was going through this list of questions. It was kind of like cascading snowball down the hill. But when I was watching the Merlin, and I grew up with the Arthurian Merlin tales and learning about King Arthur, and I was always fascinated by Merlin. And my initial inspiration for my character was like, what would it be like for a young Merlin, before he became master of his powers, living as a young man in our time? And then that was the inspiration for Callum. But then as time went on, my character kind of took on a life of their own and grew, and I was just watching from the sidelines a lot of it.
So Jennifer, how did you get the title, the Callum Walker series?
Actually,
where did Callum Walker come in? Is he in the books?
Okay, so Callum was on my list of baby names. Oh. I had 2 boys. My husband didn't necessarily like the name Callum, so we went with my sons are Morgan and Avery. And I really wanted to use that name, but I'm not having more kids, so I was just
choose enough. That's it.
Yeah, I'm done. They're both on a spectrum. They're both very busy. I love them to death, but they're a lot of work, and I wanted to be able to invest my time and energy into, 2 kids versus more kids. And so I wanted to use that name, and I really liked it. And it's a very unique name, and it kind of fits with my, my heritage, and then Walker is because he's on a journey. So it just made sense.
I always wondered where the Callum Walker came in. Like, I was wondering if it was a character in the book, or I like that it was a baby's
Callum Walker
name.
is my protagonist, and it's his journey, and he's it's basically like a fish out of water, coming of age, unlikely hero type scenario with him. So
I love it. And I love that that's not another baby coming out, right? That's a lot of work having another baby.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've created in a way, he is my son, sort of creatively, not literally, but I feel like, I made this character and I grew them, and I'm watching them grow up, and so.
Well, we have another question for you coming in from Rochelle. How do you manage the intense focus of ADHD when you are building such complex worlds?
I have to set a timer. because I will forget to eat and sleep. And, I'm sure a tornado could rip through my house. And unless it knocked out the power or the Wi-Fi, I would still be writing, so I completely forget that the world exists, and I immerse myself almost completely in this world to the detriment of my health. So I do have to set alarms just to remember to take a break and stand up and move around so I don't develop a blood clot in my legs or something. I do also try to take time to step away because, as we know, too much of a good thing makes it a little boring. So
Yeah.
I do have a time in the afternoon, and it's around 1:00 where I say, okay, I don't care if I'm still in the middle of a chapter. I have to close my computer, because computers close this way, books close this way. So
It depends on how you hold the book there, Jennifer.
Yeah, that'd be a little difficult to read. I do have dyslexia though, so it's interesting some of the techniques that I have. But I say to myself at 1:00, done. If I have time in the evening, and my husband's busy with something and my kids go to bed, well, maybe I'll write a little bit more, but 1:00 is my cutoff time. And I will close my computer because I want to have some time to myself to decompress before my kids come home and the chaos hits the fan. And because, they come home and it's, I am home at the top of their lungs. There's, goes from really quiet to screaming loud. So I have to be, there and present.
You just talk about chaos coming home. Do you put chaos in your storytelling?
Oh, absolutely. But then I get to watch my characters live through it. Yeah,
you cleaned that mess up.
I always say writing is the ultimate satisfying of your God complex. It satisfies the one place that I'm in control of everything. Even though sometimes when I'm writing, I'm not in control. I'm along for the ride, and I have no idea where that train's going to take me. Sometimes I'm like, yay, this is awesome. That came out of my head. I'm brilliant. And then other times I'm like, there is something wrong with me. I'm questioning my sanity. So it's a gamble, and I'm in just as much of an adventure as my characters. I just kind of have an idea what's going to happen to them.
So what character has really blown your mind away?
Oh my goodness, when I got to book 3, so I love all my characters, even the minor ones. I put thought and feeling into them. I think about their past. I think about their motivations or traditions, how they were raised, whether they're cat or dog people. Like, I know everything about all my characters, even the minor ones. But when I got to the 3rd book, there was another character that I introduced whose name is Jax, if anybody has read the 3rd book, and I'm trying really hard not to give away anything, that when I created Jax, he was the polar opposite of Callum. And so whereas Callum is really like introverted, conservative, think first, act after much debate, Jax is very extroverted, very go in there with fists blazing and ask questions later and then go, oops, sorry, kind of thing. But he's also very because he's extroverted, he's also very sarcastic and joking. And the two of them together was the most fun that I had writing. They were bouncing ideas off of each other, and Jax is teasing Callum, and Callum is giving it right back, after, Jax is pissing him off and he's snapping back at him. And I have 4 brothers, and it just reminded me of all the conversations I was listening to with my brothers. I had a lot of fun with that.
Jennifer, does it remind you of your 2 boys as well?
Not yet, because my kids are still into they're more fighting over air and tissue and who gets to fart on mommy. And, so there's a little more sibling rivalry, physical, literally sitting in the bathroom because I don't lock the door because, somebody might need me. And they come in and they're having a fist fight in the bathroom because older brother is pissed off younger brother and wants me to rescue him. And I'm like, okay, you're going to pick a fight. You get to learn to deal with it.
And mom's in the bathroom.
Use our words, but I'm not going to fight this fight for you. You picked it on. You started this. You can finish this battle.
I seen on your Facebook, you had a picture of you typing on your laptop, and the boys were fighting in the background, and I was just like envisioning them in the bathroom, right? Coming in the bathroom.
Yeah, that was
You-
literally, yeah, that's pretty, you know what, when I created that image, so disclaimer, that is not my son's, that is not my house. It was an AI picture, and I said, just make chaos in the background. And I was really surprised because the two boys in that picture look very much like my two boys. I was like, wow, that's really close. So but that's a lot of times I will put my headphones on, and that's me ignoring the world. So it's a very good representation of how I try to ignore the world, but diving in and hyper focusing. So yeah, it was fun.
Well, Jennifer, we have a question here is what role has storytelling played in your personal journey?
I think it gives me a place to vent, to de-stress, to control something, because, as we know, there's not a lot of things in life that we can control. It also gives me a place to explore my emotions, consequences and effects. It was where I started to understand the world and how I fit into it, and live, whatever emotion I was suffering at the time, or not suffering, but feeling that I couldn't manage on my own. I didn't know how to manage, and I didn't have anybody to talk to. So I would put my characters in situations that would elicit those same emotions and watch them muddle their way through. So it kind of gave me some, what do you guys, closure, I guess is the word. So
I love sitting and having tea with you because your tea takes us on an adventure. And that's the tea that you gave me tonight. The tea that you gave me was adventurous, imaginative, and determined. I can't speak tonight, guys. I'm having trouble with my words. I don't know why, but I am. So let's get into those three words. Jennifer, why did you give me those three words for your tea?
I get bored easily. So adventurous, obviously, and imaginative, because I never stop thinking. And I cannot remember the other word that you said. I know I wrote it.
Determined.
Determined. Yes. Because if I weren't determined, I would have given up a long time ago. I would never have gone this far. I would never have thought to try. And my husband says I'm like a bulldog. Sometimes I get a thought in my head and I can't shake it. I mean, he is the same, but I don't see that as a bad thing. I know I was going to mention something earlier about neurodivergence and trying to, be an advocate for people, because there's a lot of misunderstandings about it, and we can feel very deeply. We just may not express it appropriately because we don't know how to express it. There's a lot of attention given to us to see other people and to understand what they're, reading their body language or their facial expressions, but there's not as much attention on how to interpret our own. And I didn't get any early intervention. So, and I hear a lot of people tell me, somebody was mentioning that I describe it as a superpower. And that's how I've described it as my kids, because my brain is always open and I don't miss anything. You'll put on a shirt with a scratchy tag, and then eventually you kind of get distracted and you forget about it. I can't forget about that tag. I can't forget about the weight of my glasses on my ears. I feel the wind on my face. I walk by a store and I smell the stuff coming out of the store. If it's like, a bath bomb store, those kind of things, right? And I don't miss anything, and I can't filter it or shut it down, and it becomes very overwhelming. And then I'm trying to explain to some of the people that don't have autism some of the challenges that I have. And I hear a lot of times people saying, we're all a little on the spectrum. And other people ask me, it's like, does that make you mad? I said, no, it doesn't make me mad. It makes me realize that there's a lack of education. So what I say to people when they tell me that, oh, we're a little on the spectrum, I said, if you're driving down a highway and you have somebody in a semi and you have somebody in a motorcycle and you hit a hailstorm, technically you're both drivers because you're both driving on a highway in motorized vehicles, but you're going to have different challenges that are going to affect you. And that's what the difference is. Yes, we're both drivers, but we have different challenges.
Well, we have a question here for you, Jennifer. It's from Clyde. I'm curious, do you have a specific writing ritual that helps you get into your zone?
So because I write very much from the heart, I have to be in the right frame of mind and the right emotional state in order to write. I can't write, say, for example, a sad scene if I'm really excited about something. So sometimes I will watch sad shows on TV to get me into that right frame of mind so I can write a sad scene. And likewise with other emotions. So that kind of helps me. But again, I can't write in an environment that is very distracting. So I have to clean it up. I have to have a lack of noise. If I cannot eliminate the noise, I will put headphones on, and that helps, like the sound dampening ones and such. So as far as that goes, that's kind of how I prepare for writing different scenes and writing in general.
So, Jennifer, how long did it take you to write your first book?
So the rough draft for my first novel took me about 2.5 months. That said, the rough draft, the original rough draft, is very far removed from what is actually published. And when I originally wrote it, it was a monster story, chasing monsters, hunting monsters, and it turned into something completely different. And I think it went in a very good direction. When I finished my first book's rough draft, I was on a roll, and the ideas are pouring out of me, and I wrote my second book in 2.5 weeks. But I don't recommend that to everybody, because I didn't live in those 2.5 weeks. It was a tough time.
You had a lot that you needed to get out on the paper.
Yes, I did. And I was afraid that if I didn't, then I would forget it, even though it's silly because it's in my head. I don't forget, the feelings that go with it. I may forget specifics and events, and the order of events, but I don't forget the feelings.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to put out there as well, right? Because the first one was 2.5 months, and then the next one was 2.5 weeks. Each book is different amounts of timing. Yeah. How long was it for book 3 and book 4?
So book 3 was around 3.5 months. Book 4 took me about 6 months. And then I'm working on book 5 now. And I had to step away from that so that I could finish doing the refresh, re-edits, relaunches of my first 3 books. But I'm still working on that in the interim whenever I get a chance. And I think this one, the 5th book is going to take me a little bit longer because of that delay.
We have a question here from Daniel. Which character in the series do you feel reflects your own personality the most?
There is a character that, see, it's hard because every character in the book has elements of me. So no one character is me entirely, but I put little bits of me in every single character. But I have had people ask me, so I don't think there's one character that represents me, but I have had people ask me, is there an autistic character, a character that represents autism? And if I would name a character, then it would have to be, there's an elven general by the name of Yorick Agus. And we see him in the first book, and then he shows up in later books. And he is very stoic, very right and wrong, black and white, everything. There's no grays. And that's very much in my mind. He's very deep thinker, very deep feeler, but he doesn't know how to show his emotions appropriately. So he comes off as very impassive in a lot of situations. And in my mind, he represents part of my autism for the most part. I mean, I put it in everyone, but he is a big representation of that.
And we have a question here. What challenges did you face in sharing your work publicity?
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt?
Fear. Yeah, fear. Feeling afraid of being judged, like psychoanalyzed because of my writing, afraid that people wouldn't like it, afraid that people were going to be mean. It's terrifying to put your face out there, because you're basically making yourself vulnerable. You pour your heart and soul into these stories, and then there are some people out there that no matter what you do and, how well you write, they're just going to tear it apart. And part of those stories you feel like they're tearing you apart too, because this is your artwork. So I've had my share of bad reviews, but I've had a lot more positive reviews than I have negative reviews. So that's fortunate. I try really hard to think, okay, is this a constructive review, something I can change, something I can work on, or is it a personalized view? So that's kind of how I look at that. Another thing is, just the self-doubt. I think we all kind of struggle with imposter syndrome. And so thinking we're not good enough, comparing ourselves to other authors, which isn't fair because everybody writes differently. And just because something is popular doesn't mean it's well written. So we have to stop comparing ourselves to other authors. I think it's fine to compare ourselves to our early selves, and see where we've come. But it's a growing, constant journey. And I'm going to be a different author in 10 years than I will be today, because I'm going to change and improve. So comparing myself now doesn't make sense. Another thing that I've found people have found helpful is the word marketing is terrifying and confusing, and I have no idea what it means. So the first thing I did was I said, I don't like the word marketing. I'm going to change it. I'm going to start saying, showing the world I exist, because it puts me in the right frame of mind. Instead of thinking this foreign term that I don't have any idea what means, I now have put it into some terms that I understand. And a lot of people say, oh, well, that helps to think about it that way. Just like I did with tests. I had test anxiety. So instead of saying, oh, this is an exam or this is a test, I say instead, this is a chance to show what I know.
And everyone has their way of learning, right? And expressing themselves. And that's what I really love about when you come on Tea Time and you express and you share with all my listeners, right? Because the word marketing is a pain in the...
Yeah. And it's confusing, and it's so all encompassing. You don't even know where it ends or where something else begins or how far it reaches. Yeah.
And there's so many different types of marketing, right, out there, that it's just like, oh my God, it's like so many different flowers out there. Like, which one do we pick? Which one do we want today, right?
Yeah.
I get overwhelmed when people tell me, Miss Liz, you got to market this way and you got to market that way. And I was just like, just let me market the way I need to market. Like, I do it my way.
Yeah.
Because if I do it another way, I get all confused, I get overwhelmed, and I get bitchy, I get cranky. I'm just like, just let me do it my way.
Hey, if it's working, don't change it. That's the thing I've learned it. I've determined is like, people, you're going to make mistakes, and I mean, like everybody does. You put out a post and nobody looks at it and stuff like that. And then you get, some people will get all up in arms of like, nobody looked at this, nobody liked this, and I want to give up. And trust me, I've been there. But and then you post the next one and the next one and the next one, and then you don't look at the individual ones, you look at the bigger picture. And then you
look at it differently.
Yeah, you got to see the trends, and if it's working and you're moving in the right direction, then keep doing it.
Well, Jennifer, I got some questions here for you, some lightning bolts. So let's see how fast you can answer these ones for me.
Okay.
One word that defines your mind right now.
Busy.
Imagination or reality, which teaches more?
Oh, imagination.
Why?
Imagining what reality could be like.
A place where you feel most yourself?
In my own head.
Oh, interesting. Listeners, interesting, right? What does courage look like to you?
Keep trying, even if you're failing. You just don't give up, because you never know when you might succeed.
And what does your story mean to you today?
My stories mean sharing accomplishment, sharing who I am with the world, and finding my place and belonging.
If you could write a story about yourself, what would the title be?
Oh. Always a dreamer.
Oh, I like that one. I wasn't expecting that from you, Jennifer. Why not always a dreamer?
A lifelong dreamer. It's what my motto is. It's author and lifelong dreamer.
And if you had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh, Standing Outside the Fire by Garth Brooks.
Oh, she's a country girl.
Well, I don't like necessarily country, but that's one song that I do like.
See, we find out a little bit. We go deep into the ice. We get some colors and all that. And now we're going to go into the color. What is your favorite color, Jennifer?
Dark, rich purple. Like the color behind your logo that says T. I love that color.
Why that color?
I don't know. It's like rich. It's royalty. It's mysterious. It's big. It screams ominous and foreboding, but at the same time, it's mysterious.
Oh, so now let's go back into book number 1 for the listeners that are just jumping on now, because Miss Liz is just all over the place. I just want to get back into book 1 and book 2, and I'm having some fun here with Jen. And then we got some more questions that I want to get to. Let's go back to book 1. So Jen, real quick, what's book 1 about?
The character that my main character has these powers, doing the best he can to try to figure out what they're for, ends up discovering this magical realm that exists. He's, crosses this veil, rather he's dragged across it. And then, so he's learning about this world, but he also finds, he discovers that there's a feud, a magical war that's going on between two brothers that are warring over domination over this magical realm that he just learned about. Now he just learned about this war, and then discovers that he has been fated to end this battle that he didn't even know existed. So throughout this book, he's trying to avoid this, and like he would just rather be normal, and he's getting pursued from all sides. And the only way to go past this is to accept his role and stop reacting and start running away and accept his role.
So in book 1, are you bringing all the characters to book 2?
Not all the characters, no.
So who left from book 1 to get into book 2?
So we are again he tries to return to the human realm. He gets dragged in. The conflict that has happened has awoken this, primordial evil, and the dark, this evil is an intangible deity who must take a host. And there, as we know, there's two sides of every coin. So on the other side is the goddess of light, who has already taken a host. And we find out that it was Callum. And so Callum has to make the ultimate sacrifice, because the good and the dark come together in a convergence, and they cannot destroy one another, but they have to triumph. One has to triumph over the other to set the balance in peace, because we cannot have good without evil or light without dark. They are codependent, and destroying one will destroy another. People are so, and the beings in this realm are so afraid of the darkness that they're willing to go and sacrifice, kill the light or destroy the light, because they know that if they destroy the one, the other one dies. What they don't realize is by killing one side and ending both of them, it destroys all of humanity, all of life, all of everything living, basically. So Callum has to, come to terms with the fact that he's got to make the ultimate sacrifice. He may not survive this convergence, but at the same time, he's being hunted, because he is the bearer of the light.
So Jennifer, what year is the books based in? Like 1800s, 1700s?
My books are based in modern times. So on our side of the veil, it's our day and age. And so Callum is very modern in his growing, like he is a young man raised in our day and age and stuff. But the magical realm, I've always associated magic and medieval times. So they're very medieval. Like they've got castles, they've got kings and queens and lords and nobles and those kind of things. They don't need technology. They live off the land. They're very in touch with nature. They don't need technology because they have magic. And it just made sense to me. Where we can't see them, they can see us, and they have watched us evolve, and they know about our technology, and they know how far we've come, and they know our languages and our customs and our cultures. And I kind of had that idea there when I went through that.
So Jennifer, are they jumping into the two different worlds, or you go into one at a time?
It's a coexisting realm within our world. So it exists with us. And then this veil separates them, and we can't cross it, and we don't even know it's there. So we'll walk forever like a character on an NPC on a game. We're just walking against a wall. We don't realize it until we get tired and we decide to go off in a different direction. We can't see it because it's enchanted.
So what kind of magic powers are in this book?
So a lot of them are nature related. So the elements, there's like wind, fire, electricity, water, nature. But there's other elements that we will see as we go deeper into the series, like the ability to use magic to conjure material items and living things. And we'll find out more about that later in the series. But it's very much magic and living energy are synonymous. So you consume magic energy, you consume living energy to cast your magic. Now, some beings are able to use energy in their environment to cast magic, but it's a skill that takes centuries to learn, and not everybody can learn it. And Callum certainly hasn't learned it because he's been self-taught. So whenever he casts a big spell, it's like running a marathon. He's depleting his own strength.
Well, we got a question that's here for you from Johnny. How do you use your deep, dark purple aesthetics and imaginativity to create a sensory experience for your readers that feel different from traditional fantasy?
Hmm. I'm not sure how to answer that question, honestly.
That's a deep
I
one.
don't know how I can use. I mean, there's a psychological basis to different colors eliciting different emotions. And I mean, I can answer it in the fact that purple, dark colors, and purple and blues in general are there's a reason that they're used for like uniforms for security and police and dark colors and stuff because they elicit this feeling of authority and respect and position of power and stuff. So I guess that's how I would use the purple. But just because it's my favorite color doesn't mean it's everywhere in my books. My fourth cover is made of purple, it has purple, but I mean I also have purple, dark purple as a color whenever anybody is using magic to conjure things like living things and material things. And so, it's a specific type of magic for conjuring that not everybody can do either. So I guess
So
I
do you have
did
any?
in there a little bit. In the book, in the fourth novel, I guess I do use a little more purple than I do in other books because that's the color of the gemstones in the Daguerrean mines.
Oh, we have gemstones. You never mentioned the gemstones before. Are
That's
the
'cause there's
gemstones in all of the books?
just the fourth ones.
Oh,
Yeah, and they're imbued with ancient magic. And they're a form of vessel stones, and they can be, this magic is like ancient magic from the time of creation. And once it's used up, the stones themselves can be reinfused, but it's not the same magic. It's new magic that's going into them. And depending on the caster. So there's a story. I don't want to go into too much detail into
yeah. We
it.
don't want to give too many Easter eggs out here because then you're not going to buy the book. You got to go buy the book.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, if you'd like to let the viewers know, we're almost at the end here. We're going to put it in before the end, so people have to watch the tea time. Where can people get your books? And if you wanted to do interviews and all that good stuff, where could they find you?
So best place to start is my website, jmshawauthor.com. I have descriptions and links to all my books. They're available on Amazon as a print. They're all on Kindle. The first two are on Kobo and Barnes & Noble Press. The others will be eventually. At the bottom of my website, I have a link to Goodreads. I have a link to Instagram, Facebook. I also have a contact page that you can email me through, and I have my publicist's information on that page as well.
Well, Jennifer, I want to talk because I found on the website you have a lot of book signings coming up.
I do.
So do you want to share some of those book signings with us?
Yeah, so this weekend I'm going to be driving north into Edmonton, Alberta. I'm going to be at Sherwood Park's Indigo and West Edmonton Mall Indigo for book signings. If anybody's in the Alberta, Edmonton area, that's where I'm going to be. But my website has other events and such listed with the addresses. Unfortunately, I mean, I live in Alberta, so I'm not, traveling too far outside of Alberta. But I've been asked to do a Western Canada book tour. So there might be some traveling in my future.
Mickey's been busy.
He's a slave driver sometimes. No, it's all good. It's all good.
I am honored that I got to meet you through Mickey Mickelson, Creative Edge, because he's brought so many people to this table who have amazing books in that as well. You guys all work together as a good team and a good family. So I'm honored to have you guys all here. Jennifer, what message do you want the readers to get from your books?
It's, I've said it before and I'll say it again, persistence and, not giving up. It's a marathon, not a race. If you're expecting immediate results or immediate fame, then you're in the wrong place and the wrong mindset. It is a long, grueling, hard process, and you have to look at the little rewards, not the big picture. Reverse that. You have to look at the big picture, not the little events along the way. They all add up. Got it reversed. That said, I mean, I never would have thought that had I not shared, I would never have been where I'm at, where I've sold thousands of books and I am now an award-winning author, so I'm just excited to see where I'm going to go. And I'm just glad I didn't give up, and don't give up yet. You may not end up where you wanted to be, but you'll end up somewhere.
Yeah, because you got some awards from Bookfest Awards.
Yeah, just recently.
Which ones did you get?
So I submitted my first book and my fourth book because they were finished, their refresh, and they had their new cover. So I submitted those two to the Spring Bookfest Awards, and I won second place in the fantasy fiction for both of those in the same contest.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
I love it. So Jennifer, besides the fifth book, what else are you working on?
I do have a side project. Again, I've had to put it on hold till I'm finished my relaunch and new covers and refresh and stuff. But it's sort of a dystopian Robin Hood meets Romeo and Juliet with hints of Hunger Games. So I'm excited to get started on that. I have done a couple chapters in it. I love where it's going. I've plotted it out. I turned somewhat from a pantser into a hybrid plotter. So
are you working on that coming out soon, or?
I have worked a little bit, because sometimes, you do the same thing over and over again. You need a little change. So whenever I need a little change from my Callum Walker series and I need to do something different, then I will jump into my dystopian and I'll work on that. But I got lots of ideas rattling in my head. Like, I've been writing for over 30 years. So I have hard drives worth of ideas of stories that I've started that I've not been allowed to delete.
And Jennifer, what advice would you give to an aspiring writer who feels unsure of themselves?
You'll never know unless you share your work, how far you can go. Best place to start is, like I did, just send it to an editor. That way, if they say it sucks, and you haven't invested all that time and energy. You should be editing your work anyway before you publish it. But that's the best place to start. There's only one set of eyes, between yours and theirs. They're the only eyes that are going to see it. And if there's something that you really don't want somebody to see, take it out before you send it to your editor. Rough drafts just for you.
How many rough drafts do you have?
Oh, hundreds. Not just the same story, but hundreds of rough drafts from other stories that I've written over the years.
Well, I think it's important for the listeners to know that, right? Because everyone thinks you write a book and poof, you send it to the publisher, it's done. No.
No, there's a lot. And then I'm growing as an author. With every book I write, I learn something new and I'm growing. And there's some stories that I've started in rough drafts that I wasn't at the right mindset or the right skill level to write. Right. There's an alliteration.
Right.
I hadn't reached that level of skill yet. And then once I do, I can return to them and I can better convey my ideas and better, I'll be at the right time to write those stories.
And Jennifer, if a young person out there is looking at your writing and your books, what message would you like the young readers to take from your stories?
There's always going to be a typo. There's always going to be something that's not perfect. There's a million different ways to say the same thing, and they're all right. It's never going to be perfect, and it's not supposed to be. We're human. If it was perfect, then it wouldn't be a human writing it. So.
And we talked about this before we went live, right?
Yeah, and that's all right. Imperfections, there's some beauty in imperfections. It gives you an idea of the person, where the mistakes are. Because I know I've read in one book and they always leave one little word out, or they're always have a hard time with that one word. And I'm like, you struggle with that one word, don't you?
Yeah. But Jennifer, we just got this question that came in and it says, what does being different mean to you today?
It gives me something that sets me apart from somebody. I consider my neurodivergence as it's who I am, and I wouldn't change it for the world, because it is what brought me here today. It is how I see the world. And if that means I have to be different, then that's great, because I would rather be different and unique and imaginative and creative than just be like everybody else and move through life in the big crowd of civilization as a sheeple.
And Jennifer, what's your final message to all the listeners tonight?
If I can do it, you can do it. Anybody can do it. And it's not a competition. Reach out to authors. We are not scary. We will try to write back. We may not be able to write back to you all the time or right away, but we will try to get back to you. We're not big, scary people. In fact, you are more scary to us than we are to you.
You might be just that next character that's going in the book.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had young people come to my table and they're scared to talk to me because I'm not famous. I'm not a superstar, and I'm just, I'm terrified to be there too. If you see a table with an author and they're doing a book signing, they are scared out of their gourd. Go say hi. Tell them you're doing great. Even if all you do is take a bookmark or a business card or say hi, because being out there, putting her face out there and sitting at that table and watching everybody walk by, I've had people laugh at me. And I mean, it's hard getting out there. Peopling is terrifying. And the fact that I'm out there doing it anyway, showing the world I exist, telling people about my books, it takes a lot of courage. And I always try to stop at tables. So if you see an author at a table and they're all by themselves, or even if they've got people there and they're talking to them, just go and say, hey, good job.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. And thank you for coming back. Again, if anybody would like to see Jennifer's previous times on Tea Time, you can check out the different seasons on Miss Liz's YouTube channel at Miss Liz's Teatimes. You can check out all the podcast apps out there. If you'd like to know more about Miss Liz, you can check out Miss Liz at www.misslizsteatimes, teatime.com, no S. The S is on the YouTube channel only. And I'm going to do a quick wrap up of what tonight's tea time was. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in, bringing your questions and your support. I truly could not do this without all of you guys. So thank you again. What a meaningful and important conversation. JM, thank you for continuing to share your voice, your creativity, and your perspective so openly. Your storytelling reminds us that fantasy worlds can sometimes reveal the deepest truths about the real ones. Tonight, we were reminded that neurodivergent individuals feel deeply, experience deeply, and contribute beautifully to the world around them, even when society misunderstands or underestimates them. Stories matter because they create understanding, they create empathy, and sometimes they help people feel less alone. Your work encourages readers not to only explore imaginative worlds, but to look at people with more compassion, openness, and humanity. Here is something to carry with you after this tea time. How often do we assume we understand someone without truly listening to their experience? Because real connection begins when we stop trying to make people fit into expectations and start appreciating them for who they truly are. Until our next cup, keep sharing, keep imagining, keep learning, and keep creating spaces where people feel seen, valued, and accepted exactly as they are. And I'll see everybody on Thursday with 2 new tea times, and we'll do this all over again.